Imagine killing your mother for friendship. In 1954, 15-year-old Juliet Holmes' family wanted to move away from New Zealand, and her best friend, 16-year-old Pauline Parker, wanted to go with them. There was just one obstacle: her mother. So the two girls hatched a plan, and with a brick inside a stocking, beat Pauline's mother to death. The case became a sensation, but the trial was never going to be about whether they did it. They had confessed. Instead, it was about if the girls were insane. The defense proposed that they lived inside the fourth world, a fantasy they had created that included their own religion. The jury didn't buy that and found that they had coldly, callously planned and committed the crime, but they only served 5 years before being released.
Oh my God, guys, this happened literally 10 minutes from my house in the Bronx. A woman was rescued from a hostage situation where a man was raping her for hours and locked her in his house through Grubhub. Are you ready? So this 24-year-old girl, she's chosen to remain anonymous. I totally understand. She's been talking to this dude online. They've been talking for a few months. They finally decide to meet in person, just like most people do when they meet online. They meet in person. She goes back to his apartment. She gets back there. His name is Kamoy Royal, by the way. She gets back to his apartment, and he freaking locks her in there, takes her phone, holds her hostage, and then sexually assaults her for hours. Okay, she finally at 5 a.m. asks for some food, and he gives her phone back so she can get some food. She gets on her Grubhub app and she goes to the Chipper Truck Cafe and she orders a breakfast sandwich and a coffee. But she puts special instructions on the bottom, and thank God for these people. Seriously, thank God for them, and thank God for her for being so smart and thinking in the moment of doing that, because I don't think I would have thought of that. I really don't. I don't think I would have been that smart, but I'm so thankful she was. So the Grubhub order gets there and the people see these instructions and they're like, oh my God, call the police. And obviously it's a little jumbled, but she's saying, call the police, bring them with the order, don't make it obvious. So the people who receive the order, they call the boss. They call the owner of the restaurant and they're like, what do we do with this? And the owner's like, you call the police because it's better safe than sorry. Call the police. So they do. So cops, they show up to 2719 Pratt Avenue in the Bronx, and guess who answers the door? Kamoy Royal, the guy. He answers it thinking it's his food. It's not. It's the cops. They take the girl, they arrest him, they book him, and then they find out that he was accused of raping another girl earlier that day. So now he's charged with rape twice, along with a bunch of other charges. So like I said before, thank God for these people. If you live in the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Yonkers, Westchester, anywhere in the surrounding New York City area, please go visit and patronize the Chipper Truck Cafe. Because honestly, those are some good people that they would listen to those instructions, ask no questions, and just call cops. And they saved this girl's life. I mean, honestly. And thank God for her, for thinking of that in the moment, to think to do that. I don't know if I would have thought of it. I really don't. But I think as women, we do need to think of creative ways to get out of really compromising situations. Unfortunately, we're put in really bad situations a lot, and we need to know how to defend ourselves, how to run fast and get the hell out of there, or how to think of creative ways to get out of a situation. Because it's on us, ladies. It's on us. We got to figure it out. She scared me. This lady, her name's Evelyn. She just was accused of killing and burning her husband. Now that is a scary looking lady. Imagine that's the last thing you see before you pass. According to this Post article, she told authorities that they were in debt because she'd blown all of their savings on vacation homes and day spas. I'm sorry. Homegirl ain't been to a day spa in a long time. We got a lot going on here. She needs a wax. All jokes aside, though, she killed her husband for $10,000. A $10,000 life insurance policy. Are you kidding me?
Penile Slicer, the man named John Wayne, going out to the bar, enjoying some time with his buddies. He's flirting with a couple girls. Somehow, his wife, Lorena, She somehow gets word that he's flirting with the girls at the bar. Who knows how? Back to the house. She's acting kind of normal with him, knows what's going on. She waits till he goes to sleep. She moves the blankets down, moves his boxers down, gets an 8-inch knife from the kitchen, and slices his 2-inch pecker completely off. How ironic. John Wayne lost his Wayne. John. Alright.
He'll be here all night.
Alright, so John wakes up obviously in excruciating pain. He looks down and sees blood gushing from where his member used to be. Loses consciousness, whether it's from the sight of blood or whether it's from the pain. So his wife, in panic, starts to run and trying to get away. She jumps into her car with his 2-inch yacker in her hand. In her car, she's panicking. She throws it out the window. He wakes up inside the hospital. No penis. Finds out. Somebody went back and looked, one of the family friends, find his member in a field. They pick it up, they bring it to the hospital, and the doctor sews it on the thought that he's never going to be able to use it again. Suddenly, this is, I believe, 2 years after the operation, he starts to get a feeling in his little friend downstairs. He calls his mom out of excitement. Buddy's working again.
Hey, Mom.
So he actually gets hit up from the adult film industry. They want to offer him a surgery where he can get a penile enlargement as well and help his thing work a little bit more. So he does the surgery. The guy becomes the film industry sensation, bro. Quite a lot of fame since he actually lost his thing. They had him on TV shows. So this guy went from being married to not even being well known. Now he's like a star in the film industry. Gets his manhood back and has a crazy story to tell.
Masha and Dasha were conjoined twins who were taken from their mother at birth to be studied by Russian scientists. They were subjected to over a decade of medical torture and experiments as they shared a blood system but had separate nervous systems. Masha and Dasha were born joined at the waist with 2 heads, 2 torsos, 4 arms, and 1 leg each with a 3rd leg on their back. Shortly after they were born, the doctors told their mom that she had given birth to a mutant and ultimately told her that they had died from pneumonia so that she wouldn't want to keep them. But in reality, the twins were taken to the Institute of Experimental Medicine in Moscow to be experimented on. These horrific experiments included packing one twin into ice to bring their temperature down to near-fatal levels to record temperature changes in the other twin. The scientists also burned, starved, electrocuted, and deprived them of sleep. They had their blood taken 3 times a day and were often injected with radioactive iodine to see how quickly it would affect the other sister. In 1956, the twins were transferred to another lab where they were given an elementary education. But life was still horrible for them as they were kept hidden from the public for the next 8 years of their life. Masha and Dasha were then moved to a boarding school in southern Russia in 1964, and according to them, this was the happiest time of their lives. Once in adulthood, the twins developed extremely different personalities. Masha was very outspoken and dominant, often bullying her sister, and was just overall very angry. Dasha was quiet and gentle. At 18 years old, Dasha tried ending her own life, which failed, and as a result, the twins were placed into a retirement home. They were seen at the time as inhuman and given almost no rights. In 1989, the twins had to move to a small room with a single bed where they spent the next 14 years of their life. They did locate their birth mom and had a brief relationship with her, but Masha quickly ended that. Over the years, Masha and Dasha became alcoholics, even though Dasha was the only one who actually drank. But because they shared the same blood supply, Masha would also become drunk. They reportedly tried many things to quit drinking, including hypnotism, magic spells, and being sewn up. Sewn up back then was a process where a capsule containing a nocebo chemical that would supposedly kill them upon inebriation was surgically inserted under their skin. Towards the end of their life, the twins would develop a somewhat loving bond, so much so that when a doctor who specialized in operating on conjoined twins offered to separate them, Masha refused. Fast forward to April 17th, 2003. This is when Masha started complaining about back pain and became sick. She died of a heart attack 17 hours later. Doctors lied to Dasha and told her that her sister was just sleeping. But 17 hours later, Dasha would also die due to blood poisoning from Masha's decomposing body. They were 53 years old and deserved a better life.
Jeff Doucette was being escorted down the hall, his hands were cuffed behind him, and he didn't notice Gary standing by the payphones in a white baseball cap and sunglasses. No one did. And they didn't see him reach into his boot and pull out a .38 snub-nose revolver. Jeff Doucette was all too familiar with Gary Blanchet. He had been just arrested for kidnapping and abusing Gary's 10-year-old son, Jody. Jeff was a popular karate teacher in Baton Rouge. That's where he first met Jody. The two of them hit it off right away, and Jeff became a frequent visitor at the Blanchet home. They thought Jeff was helping Jody, but little did they know he had more sinister intentions in mind. Jody said this to George Morris of The Advocate. It was over several months before he ever started to do anything, and he had already been testing the boundaries. He had begun the grooming process, not just on me, but my family. By February 19th, 1984, Jeff had firmly entrenched himself into the Plauché household. So, there was nothing strange about his request to take Jody back to his house to show him some carpet he was having put in. The hours ticked by until June realized it was dark and they hadn't come home. Frantic, she called friends and family trying to locate them, but it was no use. Her son and his karate instructor were gone. Almost a week went by until they got a phone call. It was Jody. They were in a motel near Disneyland. And then Jeff himself hopped onto the call. He told June to bring the other children with her and meet them at the motel in California. But what he didn't know was that the FBI had tapped her phone and the call was being traced. And here is where things get dicey. When Gary learned what Jeff had been doing to his son in that motel room, he became unhinged. He went to the airport to wait. When Jeff's flight landed, he picked up a payphone to call a friend. All he had to say was, "Here he comes. You're about to hear a shot." As he walked past him, Gary fired. Jeff crumpled to the ground while the officers swarmed Gary. One of them, a friend of his, could be heard on the live broadcast shouting, "Why, Gary?" His answer, "If somebody did it to your kid, you'd do it too." Jeff died the next day. He was 25. News of the vigilante killing spread across Louisiana and the nation. Almost everyone was on Gary's side, except for one surprising opponent, Jody. He didn't want Jeff dead, he just wanted him to go to jail. Instead, his father was the one behind bars.